So if you have been working with any kind of AI development tool lately, you probably know the drill. You ask it to build something, it creates a plan, you review that plan, then it writes some code. You check the code, then it runs verification, you approve the fixes, and basically you are just sitting there clicking approve buttons every few minutes. Well, Tracer just released something called YOLO mode that completely eliminates the babysitting problem. Alright, so imagine you could configure your AI agent once with all your preferences and rules, hit a single button, and then just walk away while it handles everything from start to finish. That's exactly what YOLO mode does. It takes your entire development workflow, whether that's building new features or refactoring existing code, and runs it without needing you to approve each individual step along the way. Now before we dive into how this actually works, let me explain what makes this different from just telling ChatGPT or Claude to write some code for you. See, most AI coding tools operate in this very linear way where they generate code based on your prompt, and that's pretty much it. But Tracer is designed specifically for working with real code bases. It understands your project structure, it references existing files, and it maintains context across multiple phases of development. So when I say YOLO mode automates everything, I'm talking about automating an entire engineering pipeline that's actually aware of your code bases, not just generating random code snippets. Let me walk you through what happens when you enable YOLO mode. First thing, it can automatically generate implementation plan or skip planning entirely based on how you have configured it. For example, if you are working on something straightforward like adding a new API endpoint, you might configure it to skip detailed planning and jump straight to implementation. But if you are building something complex like a payment processing system, you would want it to generate those detailed file level plans first. The key difference here is that you are making this decision once in your settings, not every single time you run a task. Once planning is done or skipped, YOLO mode handles off the task of your coding agent. Now here is where it gets interesting. You can actually use different agent for different parts of your workflow. Maybe you want to use Cursor for writing your front-end components, but Claude Code for back-end logics. Or perhaps you prefer Windsurf for database migrations but Klein for API development. YOLO mode does not care which tool you use. It just hands off between them based on your configurations. After the coding phase complete, the verification agent kicks in automatically. This is crucial because we are not just letting AI generate code and hoping it works. The verification system checks the implementation against your requirements, run tests if you have them configured, and identify any issues that need fixing. But here is the smart part. You can set severity thresholds that determine what blocks progress. Maybe you only care about critical errors and you are okay with warnings being addressed later. Or maybe you want everything to be perfect before moving to the next phase. You decide this ahead of time, and YOLO mode enforces those rules automatically. When verification finds issues that meet your severity threshold, it does not stop and wait for your input. Instead, it automatically sends those issues back to the coding agent along with context about what needs fixing. The coding agent then addresses those problems and sends the updated code back for verification. This loop continues until either all of your issues are resolved to your satisfaction or the maximum iteration limits is reached. The whole thing runs continuously without you touching a single button. Now let me show you how to actually get started with this. Tracer works as an extension that you can install in your IDE. And I am going to demonstrate this with VS Code since that's what most people use. So first you want to open VS Code and head over to the extension marketplace. Just click on that extension icon in your left sidebar or use the keyboard shortcut. Then search for Tracer. You will see it pop up and installation is literally just clicking the install button. Takes maybe 30 seconds to get everything set up. Once it's installed, you will notice a new Tracer panel appears in your sidebar. Click on that and the first thing it will ask you to do is either log in or create an account. Don't worry, the account is completely free to create and you get access to all the basic features without paying anything. After you sign in, you will see the main Tracer interface, which gives you the 3 different workflow modes to choose from. The first one is called phases, and this mode breaks down whatever task you give it into clear steps. It clarifies your intent first by asking some questions, then creates separate phases for each major component. The second mode is plan mode, and this generates really detailed file level plans before any code gets written. This is super useful when you are working with large code bases, because it helps you see exactly which files will be modified and how they will change. The third option is review mode, which focuses on analyzing existing code, finding issues and tightening things up automatically. Alright, so to enable YOLO mode, you need to click on these 3 dots in the Tracer panel. This opens up additional option where you can either use YOLO mode with the custom CLI agent or integrate it with the phases workflow. For this example, I am going to use it with phases because it gives us more control over the implementation process. Let me give you a practical example of how this works. Say I want to build an inventory management system for an e-commerce store. This needs to track product, manage stock levels, handle order fulfillment, and send notification when inventory gets low. Instead of just throwing that whole requirement at an AI and hoping for the best, I can describe exactly what I want in the Tracer prompt box. You can also attach files or folder to give Tracer more context about your existing code bases. This is really important because it helps the agent understand your current architecture and coding patterns. After you send that prompt, Tracer moves into the planning phase. It will usually ask some clarification questions first. Things like what databases you are using, whether you are using REST or MongoDB or whatever database you want to use, what authentication system you have in place, stuff like that. Once you answer these questions, it generates a comprehensive implementation plan breakdown into distinct phases. You might see something like phase 1 for code-based schema design, phase 2 for API endpoint creation, phase 3 for the front-end interface, and phase 4 for notification system integration. Now here is where the old workflow would have you manually reviewing each phase, clicking approve, waiting for code generation, reviewing that code, approving it, and so on. But with YOLO mode enabled, you can just hit start and the entire sequence runs on its own. Tracer will work through phase 1 completely, verify the implementation, fix any issue it finds, then automatically moves to phase 2 and repeat the process. No waiting for your approval, no stopping between phases, just continuous execution until everything is done. The control you have over this process is actually pretty impressive. In your setting, you can specify which agent handle which type of task, decide whether planning should be automatic or manual, and configure how errors get handled. For instance, you might want major errors to trigger automatic fixes, but minor warning to just got logged for later review. Or you could set it up so that any security related issues immediately pause execution for manual review while performing optimization happens automatically. One thing I really want to emphasize is that this is not just for building new features from scratch. YOLO mode works great for code review workflows too. You can point it at any existing code and have it analyze everything, generate detailed review comments, and then automatically implement fixes for the issue it identifies. So if you inherited a messy code basis or you want to refactor legacy code, you can essentially set up a review cycle that runs completely until the code meets your quality standard. The way Tracer handles context is also worth mentioning. Unlike some AI coding tools that kind of forget what they were doing after a few interactions, Tracer maintains full awareness of your project throughout the entire workflow. It remembers which file it modified in earlier phases, understands dependencies between different components, and can reference previous decisions when working on later phases. This makes the code it generates feel much more cohesive and intentional rather than just a collaboration of disconnected pieces. Now there are some practical limitations to be aware of. YOLO mode will keep running until one of 3 things happens. Either it completes all the phases successfully, your machine goes to sleep and interrupts execution, or you run out of your plan. That last one basically means you have hit the maximum number of changes that can be tracked in a single workflow session. But for most projects, you will complete your work long before hitting any of these limits. I tested this recently by building an admin dashboard for an existing application. The dashboard needed role-based authentication, user management functionality, analytic visualization, and system configuration control. I described the requirement to Tracer. enabled YOLO mode and just let it run. Over the next hour or so, it worked through creating the authentication middleware, building out all the APIs endpoints, implementing the React components for the front end, setting up the database migration, and even adding comprehensive error handling throughout the entire system. So if you are someone who works with AI coding assistant regularly, or if you are just getting started and want to build something faster without getting bogged down in the approval cycle, YOLO mode is definitely worth trying out. There is really no barrier to testing it on your own projects. Just install the extension, configure your preferences once, and then you can start running autonomous workflows whenever you need to implement new features or refactor existing code. Alright, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video.